everyone! Today we're going to be doing a book talk, and I think this is maybe the second time on my channel that I've talked about books. The last time was in a short video, well actually no, it was a short part of a long video where I talked about historical fiction mysteries, and so that was the only time that I did that, and those were really early on in my channel. So, and my channel's still relatively new, as you all know. So this is an experiment. Hopefully you'll enjoy it. If you don't, I just may not do as many of these videos. That's fine. I may do it anyway for myself in case there's just a few people who like it. But yeah, so today we're going to talk about a series that I think I've mentioned it in some previous entries here on the channel, and it is the Daevabad trilogy, which is by S.A. Chakraborty. I don't know if I'm saying that right. If I am mispronouncing this name, I am truly sorry. This is a great book series, and there's only 2 out right now, and again, it's a trilogy, so there will be a 3rd one. I believe it's coming out next year. The cliffhanger isn't so bad that I would discourage you from reading it, although there is a cliffhanger at the end of this book and at the end of the 2nd book. Okay. Yeah, so the reason why these 2 books look different is because one of them is the UK version of this book cover. In the United States, the book cover for this one is more similar to this one. And this one I bought when I got back to the States. I bought it at Barnes & Noble because it was easiest for me to get to at the time, even though I probably should have gone down to the writer's block here in Las Vegas or to one of the used bookstores and see if they had it, because I really believe in supporting all bookstores, but especially independent and used ones. And the writer's block is, I think, near the arts, yeah, because they closed and then they renovated and they added a cafe, and it's part of this new building called the Lucy. Yeah, the Lucy, in the Arts District here in Las Vegas. So the writer's block is there. They have book clubs. It's an indie bookstore again, a cafe is in it, and I think they offer the writer in residency stuff too. So anyway, that's the reason why these covers are so different. I actually really like this cover better than the American one. I find it more aesthetically pleasing, and I like the fact that it includes some kind of architecture, and there's just a lot more, I feel like it's a better homage to different geometric designs and art and patterns that are more to be found in North Africa and then parts of the Middle East. And the one that's supposed to be for the city of brass, that's more like this one here in the United States, doesn't really do that as much. And they're both pretty, don't get me wrong. I just am kind of like, well, I really like that because I really do admire different types of architecture, and I really love different types of geometric patterns. So yeah, so I happen to like the UK version better, so that's why they look different. I happened upon this book by chance, like some of those most beautiful book finds happen to go, you know, that happens, right? Anybody who loves books knows that sometimes you will just pick one up and you'll be like, knowing that's the one. That happened, except in this case, I was, my first time out of the United States, I got to travel to Glasgow to visit a friend at the University of Glasgow, and we were in their bookstore, I think it's a chain, kind of like Barnes & Noble here is in the US, called Waterstones, and it was several stories tall, that bookstore was, and I was in heaven. But I was browsing with my friend, and my friend was like, pulled this book off the shelf and handed it to me, and I looked at it, and I was like, ooh, and then I looked at the back and I read it, and I was like, this is the one, right? So I knew I had to buy it so I could take it back to the States with me. And yeah, it was very hard to keep my hands off of this, and I had to like start rationing it because I wanted to keep the majority of it for my flights back to the States. So I had it on Icelandair and Alaska Airlines all the way home, and it was so good. And even though I was jet lagged, I still remembered a lot of things that were details that I didn't think I would recall when I went to go and get the next book, because I was freaking out. I didn't realize it was a trilogy, and when I got to the end of this book, I was like, there has to be more to it. So you're probably wondering, okay, that's great, Kelly, but what the hell is the book about? And the book is actually, I'm gonna use the term, the phrase, I guess, yeah, the term folklore to refer to the different beings in this series. And as you can see, it's very much Thank goodness, for once in fantasy, not European-based folklore. And they have this wonderful map to give you an idea of the kinds of folklore geographically in different cultures and time periods that this world that this author constructed has integrated into the narrative, and it is fantastic, and I love it so much. If you like devas, if you like djinn, if you like bazaars, royal courts and their intrigue, if you like magic and medicine, which is a very interesting topic in and of itself, you will probably enjoy this book series. I'm hoping so. It's about Nahri, Nahri. Again, I don't know if I'm saying that right. And it's about her and her adventure, starting out being basically somebody who's not necessarily a beggar, but having to do different things to make ends meet, right? So living a very impoverished life in the streets of Cairo. And I believe it was 18th century, big difference. 18th century Cairo. So yeah, that's where you start. And I'm not going to spoil it, just know that you start there with Nahri and her world and what her circumstances have been. And then all of a sudden, as things do on these wonderful adventure kind of, fantasy novel series, they suddenly change, right? The circumstances change, and she gets pulled on this big adventure with Dara, who Dara is a Deva, and they end up going to Daevabad for a number of reasons. I'm not going to spoil it. And it's just this great adventure. So the first book is just going and having this adventure. It's starting out in Cairo and then everything moving from there and moving along and trying to get to Daevabad. And then once they do, what happens from there, which, it was such a cliffhanger for me at the end of the first book that I was like, there has to be another one, right? And there is. So from here, the adventure, it's still going on, but this book actually spends more time. It already sets up some of the world and the culture and the cultures and the different histories and things like that. But this book has to do that even more from a royal court perspective for a number of reasons, and the city of Daevabad itself. Excuse me. We've had like wind and humidity and some monsoon moisture here in Vegas, and my nose is like, I hate you. And I'm like, but please, no sniffles right now. So anyway, this book is good. It was a little bit, I won't say slower because it needed to happen. Like, I didn't find it boring at all when they were having to go through and do the different, not just explanations, but just the day-to-day life in Daevabad and in the royal court. That was fine. I found it still interesting. And there's actually some character development here. There's character development all around. But there's some character development in this one between two characters that I didn't think was going to happen. But it made me kind of happy because I felt terrible thinking about something in the first book and then at the beginning of the second book, and I'm like, wait a minute. And then, yes, it's explicitly stated later, and you'll probably figure out what kind of thing I'm talking about between two characters. So I was very happy about that. I was very like, wow, cool, okay, awesome. So I'm not going to spoil that, but that was good. That made me happy personally. Well, somebody's texting me. I heard my phone go off. So again, adventure series, folklore based, and honestly just amazing setting, and actually settings, plural. Very believable, fast-paced, detailed, wonderful character development all around again, and I love it. It's great. And if you find yourself kind of going, oh my gosh, that was a lot to take in the first book, do not worry, because HarperCollins and S.A. Chakraborty have you covered. In the beginning of the second book, I love it. This is so old school, because it's like, it makes me think of drama too. Cast of characters. They have an entire series of pages that just serve to remind you about all the different races and what's going on and things like that, along with, again, just like in the first book, a map, and then also a map of the city of Daevabad itself. So thank you, HarperCollins, for including that, and I'm glad that, you know, they devoted extra pages to that. So, because not every publisher does, and I think it can be a really cool and helpful thing to do. So yeah, that's the Daevabad trilogy. It's so good, and it makes me so happy. And to be honest, also the thing I really love is it's so seldom that I find a book that I feel like, wow, I'm on an adventure, and you feel like you're there with them. And it's that kind of book, especially in the first one. In the second one, it's a little bit different, but then at the very end of the second book, oh my gosh, yeah. Let's just say a lot of battles, maybe, and it makes me so happy. It is so well written, and I actually am I'm really shocked and impressed that this is this author's first published book, I guess. And this one was, and I'm just sitting here going, wow, this person has such talent. It is just, oh, so yeah, in case you can't tell, I'm at a lack of word. I can't words anymore about this series. If you're interested in anything I just talked about, please go check it out. Maybe it's at your library if you're like me and sometimes you're a little tight for cash, and maybe you can check it out that way if it's at your library. If it's if you're feeling like, hey, I'd actually like to go and see if they have that, go check out your local independent used bookstore, or go to your chain that's near you if you can't find it there. However you get your hands on this book, just make sure that you're if you're able, make sure that you're contributing to the author's paycheck, okay? So yeah, that's all I had to say about that. And this video again was an experiment, just to be like, I want to share a book with y'all. I'm in the middle of watching Typewriter on Netflix, and yeah, it's cool. It's not really as much of a horror as I thought it would be, so I might make a video about that one too. It's a neat series. And yeah, I don't think it's necessarily bad either, that it's not the explicit kind of horror that maybe some people were hoping for. That doesn't have to be a bad thing. I don't think it's always a bad thing when a series is not what you expected, right? It just has to do with whether or not it was executed well, right? And then again, whether or not it's executed well, for the most part, unless it's just done really horribly, is subjective. And again, my opinion about this book series is also subjective, but I would be very surprised if you weren't a fan of this genre of fantasy based in folklore, I can words, and not like it. I would be really, really surprised. So please go check out this book series. And if you're not interested in books like this, what are genres that you're interested in? What do you like reading? What are some of your favorite authors and some of your favorite books? I'd love to know in the comments below. Oop, super loud truck. That's what happens when you live in the city. And yeah, and by the way, I am safe from the grasshopper apocalypse here in Las Vegas. It has been really weird. But in case y'all don't know us, we've been having like hordes of grasshoppers show up in Las Vegas, here in Nevada, in the United States. And it's been so bad that they've been swarming certain parts of the city. You could see there were so many of them, there was a return on the weather Doppler, the radar, okay? And people were like, there's no storm, and it's like, no, those are just the grasshoppers, because we had a super wet winter, so there's been a bumper crop of them. There's even video on the net of the Las Vegas Strip being covered in them, and of the Luxor, the big black glass pyramid with the light beam coming out of it on the Strip. Yeah, they were swarming that light. And you can see it go up into the sky in that video. So yeah, have fun with that. Look that up. But yeah, it's fine on my side of town. I'm high enough in elevation. I think they're kind of like, the grasshoppers are like, there's not as much light out here. No, we'll stay away from the dark mountain. So yeah, well, until next time, everybody, I hope you take care as you're able. And I hope to hear about what kind of books you like in the comments below. And yeah, until next time, this is Kelly signing out. Bye.